In this video, we're going to share with you how to maneuver between the 3 different departments in the immigration system. Coming up. Hi, this is Kai with the Kai Wong team, helping you better understand everything you need to know about New York City real estate. Today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Steve MAGGI from SMA Attorney Law Firm. He's an immigration attorney here in New York City. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Kai. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Can you share a little bit about yourself today?
Sure. I'm an immigrant. I'm originally from Argentina. Moved here when I was 5, just like you.
Okay.
And I've dedicated my professional life to helping other foreign nationals maneuver this complex immigration system. We do full-service immigration, and our main focus is working with foreign entrepreneurs and foreign companies that are launching here in the U.S.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Sure.
So, immigration, it's a very hot topic, especially with our foreign national clients. I wanted to talk to you, like, what are the 3 different departments and what should the client know about them in terms of how to maneuver through the whole immigration process?
Okay, so I like to refer to the immigration system in the U.S. as the 3-headed monster.
Okay.
It's comprised of Department of State, which processes all the visas through the U.S. embassies and consulates. Then you have Customs and Border Protection, CBP,
Okay.
which controls the borders and all the ports of entry, including airports.
Okay.
And then you have Immigration Service, which adjudicates all the visa petitions here in the U.S.
Okay. So, Steve, how do you prepare to maneuver through the Department of State?
So Department of State is what governs all the U.S. embassies and consulates.
Okay.
And that's where people are applying for non-immigrant and immigrant visas.
Okay.
They have complete autonomy at each embassy or consulate in terms of how they function, what specifics they're looking for with petitions, and some have more pressure to deny than others, or they're in countries that are more problematic,
Okay.
where more people are looking to leave. Most important thing for a visa applicant is to have a complete copy of their file if they have a petition approved in the U.S.
Okay.
And also they need to establish strong ties to their home country when they apply for any temporary visa. That is the #1 reason for denials.
Okay.
Essentially, if they think that something is off, or if the person has a different intent than the one that goes with their visa application, they will try to deny the cases. So it's important to be well documented
Okay.
and prepared to show your ties to your home country when you apply.
Okay, great. So, how do they prepare for Customs and Border Protection?
So essentially, anytime you come to the United States and you have a valid visa,
Okay.
or you're part of the visa waiver program,
Okay.
you need to be able to document your intent, meaning what your purpose for entering the U.S. is,
Okay.
how long that will be. If you have an approved petition from Immigration Service, you need to have a copy of the original approval, as well as all the documents that were submitted for the petition. And you have to show why you need to return to your home country. Unless it's an immigrant visa, where obviously you have the ability to stay in the U.S. You need to be fully prepared, because their job is to stop people from entering the U.S. if they think anything is wrong.
So for them, it's really, they want to make sure that you're actually going to have an intent to go back home. And that's where we were talking about the strong ties back to your home country, correct?
Correct.
Got
You
it.
have to be able to document that on all fronts. So if you started with a visa application and you were able to get the visa approved, you still have to prove to Customs and Border Protection that your intent corresponds to your visa. Meaning, for example, you come in as a student, but they look through your phone and they see that you have a job offer and you're starting on Monday. Your intent does not correspond to your visa. They can deny you entry and send you home.
Got it.
And oftentimes what happens is people get barred for 3, 5, or 10 years, depending on what they perceive to be the intent.
Okay.
And so you have to be able to document that.
So, for example, where you were just talking about the student, what if the intent changed? Like, you know, he went from student to looking for a job. At what point do you have to, can you notify them and let them know and change out the intention?
So no.
Okay.
Essentially, when you enter, you have to have the specific intent that goes with that specific visa.
Got it.
If you plan to work in the future, then you have to plan on doing that once you're in the U.S.
Got it.
Or you have to leave the U.S. and apply for the corresponding visa. They can see what's called previous intent. They'll look at your records. They'll look on social media for anything that contradicts what you're actually planning or saying that you're planning to do, and they will deny you entry. So anything is open to them. Your laptop, your phone, they'll look at emails, any records that you have, and anything you've posted on social media can be counted against you, and they can infer the intent without having to prove it, and they can exclude you from the United States.
Well, that's very important to know. I'm sure not a lot of the viewers would know that they could actually scrub through your social media accounts to make sure your intents are matched.
Right, so you have to be consistent. And an approved petition in the US doesn't mean a visa, and a visa doesn't mean that you're guaranteed entry.
And what about the third department, or what you say, the third head of it, the immigration services?
The third head is probably the most dangerous of the three.
Okay.
And that's because it comes directly under the mandate of our administration and our president and the Department of Homeland Security.
Okay.
And so what you're talking about is petitions that are submitted to Immigration Service.
Okay.
They can be non-immigrant petitions, like, for example, sponsoring an L1 transfer or an O1 extraordinary ability candidate, or a change of status within the U.S. or an adjustment of status to green card. Any of those can be denied for any number of reasons. And if they're not presented correctly, then you might be forced to leave the United States and forego your status. And the timing of it is also important. It has to be timely. You can't fall out of status. So they're the most difficult of all, because their mandate is to deny as many cases as possible right now. So you have to make sure that you prepare an exhaustive and complete petition when you're applying to Immigration Service.
It sounds very extensive, and it sounds like you should have that pre-planned process with an immigration attorney just to make sure you have all your ducks in a row.
You can't afford to improvise, and submitting your own petition most of the time will lead you to go home as opposed to staying or entering the U.S.
Okay, so from your perspective, if someone is considering immigrating here from their home country, should they try to reach out to an immigration attorney in their country, or reach out to one here?
It should always be a U.S. attorney that has experience in immigration law. When I was practicing in Argentina, I had my U.S. license, and I was advising clients on U.S. law, residing overseas. So there are a limited number of U.S. trained attorneys that are overseas.
Got it.
But if they're not, they should be seeking out an immigration attorney here that specializes in U.S. immigration law.
And how long before they want to immigrate here should they have that conversation? Like, half a year, just so they can make sure they have everything in order?
I would say between half a year and a year is a good estimate.
Okay.
You need 6 months to plan ahead and to make sure that all the pieces are in place to be able to pass through the three-headed monster, all 3 stages.
Okay.
If it's more than a year, essentially the circumstances will change.
Got it.
And then you have to revisit it. It's good to know what the law says to plan, but I would say a year out to 6 months is a good time period.
That's true. If it's more than a year, laws can change as well. So it's good to keep it as close as possible.
Yeah, the law hasn't been changing, but the application of the law has. And literally in our petitions, we see changes every few months.
Got it.
And only an immigration lawyer who has a lot of work and is on top of those changes and how the law is being interpreted can advise the client correctly.
Got it. Thank you so much for sharing that. So let's just recap. What's the three-headed monsters again?
It's the Customs and Border Protection.
Okay.
It's the Department of State. And it's Immigration Service.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kai.
And thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, consider subscribing. On this channel, we share with you buying and selling tips, market updates, and neighborhood guides. If you have any questions in terms of what we discussed today, or if there's a particular topic you want us to cover in a future video, please leave it in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.